Hello and welcome. It's a very cold and foggy 8 a.m. in New Delhi. And you're with us on WION Breakfast. I'm Satya Gandham.
And I'm Charu Satya. And you're watching WION Breakfast. But before moving forward with the show, here are the heads up this morning. Dancers return to Indian classical dance. Demand is so high that there's a waiting list to sign up.
In our South Asia segment, we will talk about a small coaching center in New Delhi providing free tuitions to many young Afghan refugees.
And Saurabh Vij will be showcasing his yoga tai chi moves in WION Stretch. And Satya, good news for us this morning. The traditional Indian dance forms are in for a big revival wave. Once performed in temples and royal courts, India's classical dance has found international resonance. Various classical dance troupes are taking their performances to all corners of the world, and back home, its popularity is booming. Here's a report.
Demand is so high at this classical Indian dance studio in New Delhi, there's a waiting list to sign up. From pre-teens to mothers, many are choosing traditional Hindu dance over popular Western forms like ballet and hip-hop. And reasons for enrolling vary.
When I came here once I got married, I started to suffer from depression. I come from a family of 15. Here, my brother-in-law and my husband would go to work and I'd be at home by myself. My husband said I should go for dance classes. Then I met my dance guru and I was saved from depression.
Emerging from the country's Hindu temples centuries ago, India has 8 major classical dance styles, each with its own flavor. Through facial expressions, hand gestures and rapid footwork, these dances are forms of storytelling about Hinduism's numerous gods.
It is like a meditation. You are meditating, but and also that it is not within the confinement of any religion or any idol worship. It's not that, because you don't need anything sometimes. You just need your body and your soul, and that is sufficient to go deeper and to link yourself with your inner being.
Like yoga, which has swept the world in the last 20 years, some feel Indian classical dance could be the next big thing.
What is lacking, especially in the US, or say they don't have a very rich cultural history. It's recent history that they've come from, right? So I think they seek and they want to find that piece of ancient history, that art form, and that's why probably they're looking to India.
Some dancers graduate to become highly sought after gurus and pass on their know-how to the next generation.
What a lovely story there. Charu, you're a dancer. Tell me you love this story.
I love the story, and we spoke about starting the day every morning with a positive thought.
Yes.
I think this story really does it for me. This really is going to start my day on a positive thought, because being a dancer, I know the plight of the traditional dance forms, and they feel like they're going extinct, and they feel like no one cares about traditional dance forms, and I'm so happy to know that that is not entirely the case. Today, I really feel that today there are more people who are practicing the traditional Indian dance forms across the world than there ever were.
That is awesome, and I can see how that makes your day.
Yes.
And you know what makes my day? It's official. It's totally official. Winter has arrived in New Delhi.
It really has.
Oh my God, the first thing in the morning when you open the doors, you see all white and fog and love and romance in the air. That is winter for me. This is the one part of the year I wait for throughout the year.
I wouldn't quite call it love and romance. I mean, driving through a cloud of smog is not quite my idea of winter.
I get that. But then you know what? I checked. It's not smog. It's fog.
It's fog? Oh, that is good news. That is good news.
But then I get what you're saying. It is a sad state of affairs because Delhi has been in the news recently for a lot of wrong reasons. And recently, it's been in the news for its dangerous air pollution levels, which is why Charu thinks it's perhaps not the best news. Yeah. But then its water bodies too are no different with high levels of waste and pollutants. An environmental engineer has come with a simple solution. Tiny portable floating islands that clean up the water. Shailja Verma gets you this story. Take a look.
A British-Dutch Indian, an environmental engineer, is putting his green foot forward in a mission to clean up water bodies in Delhi. Some of the most polluted and dirtiest wetlands in India's capital happen to be in the backyard of its slum settlements. 35-year-old Tarun Sebastian Nanda has created these floating islands using nothing but plants and scrap material. Nanda made these islands 2 months back and placed them on top of the water to remove the pollutants. So how easy is it to make the floating islands? All that you need are old drainage pipes, used bottles, coconut fibre and plastic mesh. Nanda says an island can be assembled in under 4,000 rupees and is lightweight.
You're just making a frame using these drainage pipes and you wrap them in this mesh, essentially just using cable ties to keep them tight, put the soda bottles inside the pipes and put the plants. It's actually very low tech.
Nanda wants to take his idea to people across India. To begin with, he plans to hold workshops in Delhi to train people to make the islands. But his biggest hurdle so far has been the dreaded slow bureaucracy in Delhi's civic body.
So I'm hoping as the public get more involved, the government will also get more involved and they'll give me permission to do this officially. I mean, my intention is to do it with or without official permission because, I mean, there's no reason why these water bodies exist like this. I mean, in any other country in the world, you go to a lake or a water body, you don't see this kind of pollution. I mean, my plan is to get the public involved. And if there's enough people, there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to clean up these water bodies.
Industrial and human waste have polluted water bodies in almost every Indian city. Nanda has been getting calls from other cities like Bengaluru too, where toxic white foam from polluted lakes spilled out onto the streets.
These floating islands are a viable solution to the water pollution problems in our cities. And the best thing about them is that ordinary people can afford to make them in their communities without waiting for the authorities to step in. With camera person Sanjeet Raut, in New Delhi, I'm Shailaja Verma for WION.
Again, what a lovely, inspiring story over there, Charu. People coming together with solutions.
I know. I love this, you know. What a great way to start the morning by knowing that one person taking a step in the right direction can make all the difference.
So well said.
But speaking of which, India is home to almost 14,000 refugees and asylum seekers from Afghanistan who fled their war-torn country in search of safety and a better life. Most are based in the Bhogal area in the Indian capital city of New Delhi, and they do not all have access to education. But here's a story of a small coaching center in New Delhi providing free tuitions to many young Afghan refugees.
Bhogal area in New Delhi is home to over 11,000 Afghan refugees. These immigrants strive hard to make a living and make ends meet, to realize a simple dream of a better and peaceful future. Prawal Mani Tripathi is often criticized by his Indian neighbors for being pro-Afghani. This has not stopped him from doing what he feels is right and justified as a teacher.
Teaching free is not the concept.
Teaching free is not the concept. Anyone who can pay, we charge from them. If someone is not able to pay, that is not an issue. We teach them for free because this center is for teaching. My primary objective is to impart knowledge. It is my contribution to my country, since every resident is a brand ambassador of my country.
Brand ambassador for the country.
One of his students, Milad, has got no access to education. His only support is Tripathi, who has helped him since the time he has arrived as a refugee in this city.
My name is Milad Sultani. My father works in a tailor shop. Earlier I was studying in Don Bosco school. Now I'm studying under Mr. Tripathi. He provides me free tuitions. I can now speak in Hindi and his guidance has been of great help.
Tripathi believes Milad is improving and that one day soon he will be able to sit for entrance exams in schools.
When I started
teaching him, I had to start from the very beginning of most subjects. I had a hard time training him in terms of Indian education standards. But I am happy since now Milad is catching up very fast.
Milad, like many other refugees, lacks confidence to face life here in a foreign land. Thanks to his teacher, he hasn't stopped trying. Bureau Report, WION.
Well, pro-humanity and pro-education, that's our stand too.
Absolutely. And the fact that education is required not just for literacy, we need education for enlightening ourselves.
Exactly.
Yeah. On that very nice note, we'll take a very short break, but come right back because you're still with us on WION Breakfast.
Hello and welcome back. You're watching WION Breakfast and it's time now to take you around the world for some of the best news that we can get for you. Over to Australia. Now, Uluru is one of the most iconic landscape features of Australia. It's one of the most recognizable images, perhaps one of the first pictures that comes to one's mind when they think of Australian landscapes, right, Satya?
Absolutely. The great red rock rising out of Australia's desert heart is difficult to resist for many tourists. Despite the risk of upsetting the local aboriginals, tourists love to scale the rock. Should they be allowed to do it or not? Let's find out.
It's Central Australia's biggest tourism drawcard. But scaling to the top of Uluru has been controversial for decades, going against the wishes of the local Aboriginal people. Now it might be finally banned.
One of the triggers that the board would consider closing the climb was if there were other alternative activities in the park. So one of the things the Board of Management's done is over the last few years has released expressions of interest for new tourism proposals.
The number of climbs has fallen steadily over the past few decades, helped by the drumming of cultural, environmental and safety concerns. 3 dozen climbers are known to have died since the late 50s, most of them due to cardiac arrest, but also as a result of falls. This distresses Uluru's traditional owners.
Back in the old days, there was like buses going straight to the climb, but now since 1905, when they opened up the cultural centre, the buses go there first, and when they learn the stories, that changes their perspective on the culture. And being respectful, they choose not to climb.
Tour operators say overseas visitors often respect the spiritual significance of the sacred ceremonial path, traditionally used by the ancestral Mala men. But it's not unusual for Australians to have the opposite attitude.
No, I really think you should have the option. If you want to do it, you should be able to do it. You know, I know it's Aboriginal land, but, you know, there's Aboriginal land all over Australia and, you know, we're doing all sorts of things on their land. If you're going to start restricting us from doing everything on their land, well, don't even come into the park.
Under a current management plan, the gate may close once climbers fall below 20% of overall visitors. Until then, the lure of scaling the geological wonder is likely to remain.
Well, that does seem to be the flip side of tourism, does it not? You get people to a beautiful place, but then you do run the risk of them running amok. So where do you draw the line?
Where do you draw the line? I totally agree, Charu. Moving on, Tunisian tourism industry is going through an unending chill, but beverage producers believe what the nation's vineyards could bring back the golden days of Tunisia, right?
Let's find out what the vineyards have in store to attract tourists.
The last days of the harvest at Tunisia's Neferis vineyard. The country's winemaking culture dates back to more than 3,000 years. Declining after Tunisia's independence in the 1950s, the industry underwent a revival in the 1990s. 20 years on, the bet is paying off.
En Tunisie, on n'a pas de problème avec le soleil, donc on a des...
In Tunisia, we don't lack sunlight. Our climate is good for grapes, which are dark and very rich in sugar. This produces very good wines that have the right percentage of alcohol and with a good aging process.
Un bon degré alcoolique et à une maturation assez bonne.
Tunisia produces some 32 million bottles every year, mostly for the domestic market. Today, producers are working on marketing their wines internationally.
We used to present different wines to tourists and to the international market. Today we're trying to work on this. We want to present the same wines for export that we do to tourists, so that tourism also helps to advertise Tunisian wine.
But Tunisian tourism suffered after the country's 2011 revolution and recent terrorist attacks. Today, the authorities are trying to reinvent the sector. They hope wine could become a new attraction for tourists.
Ce nouveau produit qu'on est en train de mettre, j'espère, à partir de 2017.
We aim to start offering this new product to tour operators in 2017 for Tunisian and foreign tourists to experience. It's a cultural itinerary, an alternative to classic tourism. A cultural itinerary that would be a kind of Tunisian wine route.
Culturel qui est une espèce de route des vins de Tunisie.
Today, the sector is worth 80 million euros, and exports could bring an extra boost to the tourism economy.
Well, wine tourism, I must say, I remember a couple of wine tours that I've done and I loved them. The wine tasting, the walks through the vineyard. It's really, really a beautiful way to get to know the soil of the land.
Yes, and again, vineyards takes you to the land of romance, takes you to the love in the air. Always. Now moving on, a small village in Italy is home to a number of centenarians.
More than 1 in 10 of the residents of a small Italian village is 100 years old or more. Italian and American researchers are trying to work out what makes their lives so long and healthy. Here's a report.
Amina is 93, Antonio is 100. Both are in good health and completely independent, just like most of the elderly inhabitants of Acciaroli, a little village in southern Italy where reaching 100 years old is no big deal. More than 1 in 10 of the villagers has passed this milestone.
We only eat healthy stuff.
We eat a lot of fish and fresh produce which we grow ourselves. We have our own rabbits and chickens, only local products, and olive oil. We consume what we produce.
The benefits of the Mediterranean diet were first discovered here in the 1950s by the American scientist Ansel Keys. 60 years on, a new generation of American scientists, alongside researchers in Rome, are looking into the secret of the long lives of the residents here.
There's something in their genes that may, along with something they do, make them live longer and healthy. For instance, they may have a certain gene that allows them, when they eat a garnish such as rosemary, which they almost always eat every day and they grow it, maybe this does something that helps. We know rosemary improves brain function.
None of the 80 people who took part in the study, a group including 25 centenarians, suffers from dementia. They're also all physically active, whether it be fishing, walking or gardening.
What we would like to do is create a tool that says that someone who wants to live well and for a long time should have a certain type of diet, a certain level of physical activity, a certain type of social life and a certain way of thinking.
It's a formula these scientists hope one day to export to help ensure it's not just Italians who have the chance to live long and healthy lives.
That is a healthy life these centenarians lead. Again, Charu, I was most impressed by the old couple walking on the streets.
I know, I saw that.
It's love in the air.
All right then, well, from the world news, we move forward to the world of sports. Now, Satya, have you noticed that a wave of environmental activism and awareness is sweeping the world?
I agree with you, Charu. A number of people are promoting environmental causes through art, education and sports. In fact, one of the world's top big wave surfers is now fighting to save Chilean coast. Take a look.
Professional surfer Ramon Navarro considers the sea his backyard. The 36-year-old son of fishermen has spent all his life here in the Chilean town of Punta de Lobos, one of the best surfing spots in the country. The first Chilean to have gone pro, he's now ranked 12th in big wave surfing.
What attracted me most with surfing was to see that something different could be done with the sea. I used to think the sea was only good for fishing and picking seaweed, to have fun, but I didn't know that these waves I'd seen all my life could be ridden. And I was lucky, because I found it very easy.
2 years ago, Navarro made history as the first tow-in surfer in Antarctica. He's now picked a challenge closer to home, fighting to preserve the region where he grew up. The landscapes of Punta de Lobos and the municipality surrounding it, Pichilemu, are threatened by runaway land development and the growing privatization of access to the sea.
My vision of the sea isn't just that you get in and you ride a wave. It's different. You need to understand how this wave came to be, and to understand that if we take care of this place, this wave has economic potential for the region, the city, and the fishermen. So my legacy will be to try to leave a powerful message about how lucky we are to have these waves in Chile, and how important it is to look after them.
Through fundraising, the Ramon Navarro Foundation managed to buy the most emblematic seaside area to turn it into a protected natural reserve. They hope to expand the project to include the whole coastline in Pichilemu, something local authorities have been unable to do for lack of funds.
The state doesn't own the land near the beaches. It's private property. So you have to reach economic agreements with them. Often public institutions don't have the means to respond to the prices that the owners give these territories, and municipalities don't always have the tools or the necessary legislation to turn these areas into national goods.
Navarro hopes to ride the wave of his popularity to gain traction with the government and obtain a law protecting the coastline he treasures.
Well, surfing to protect the environment. I like his style.
I totally do, and it also reminds me of what you said some time ago about how, again, one person, one solution, and we have the solutions to a lot of problems.
That's right.
Well, moving on, Jamaican sprinter Usain Bolt walked the red carpet at the world premiere of his documentary, I'm Bolt, in London, alongside his parents. Here's a sneak peek into his life.
He is the biggest superstar that this sport has ever had.
He's dominated. He's won everything there is to win.
For his height, they said he shouldn't be running so fast. For where he's from.
It wasn't easy, and that's why I wanted to show the people, because a lot of people feel like it was very easy and it was as simple as it looked, but it wasn't. And so this is one of the main things I wanted to show people, and to show people my personality off and on the track is the same thing.
His whole quest is to just make people smile.
I want to be remembered among the great athletes in the world.
He's a shining example of the best that we can be.
Well, that is one documentary I, for one, am really waiting to watch. I think, Satya, maybe we should watch it together. I think this is the kind of stuff that will push you into the world of fitness.
I will take up your offer on that. On that note, we will slip into a very short break. And after we come back on WION Breakfast, we bring you what's between the lines of newspapers today.
Hello and welcome. You're watching WION Breakfast, and now it's time to take a look at the headlines this morning. 2 officers, 5 soldiers and at least 6 terrorists were killed in 2 separate terror attacks at Nagrota and Samba in Jammu and Kashmir. Search operations still underway at Nagrota.
It's the first payday after demonetization. Banks gear up for the chaos.
Indian Defence Minister Manohar Parrikar will be leaving for his first ever bilateral visit to Bangladesh today.
"71 people have died after a plane crashes in Colombia, including a Brazilian football team. So far, only 6 survivors."
Russia dismissed reports of secret talks with Pakistan on China-Pakistan economic corridor. It called the reports as not corresponding with realities.
UN says at least 16,000 people are displaced since the Syrian forces began its offensive in rebel-held areas of the city of Aleppo.
Well, those were the headlines, but now let's see what else the newspapers are reporting this morning as Satya and I read between the lines. So Satya, as usual, I picked up the DNA this morning. I love this newspaper. It has such interesting news. And here's one story that I really want to talk about. The headline says, "The son has no legal rights in a parent's house," according to the High Court.
Now that's counterintuitive.
Yes, but see, you know, we have a tremendous problem about children throwing out their parents in their old age, and so a ruling like this by the High Court is very interesting and very important, I think. A son, irrespective of his marital status, has no legal right to live in the self-acquired house of his parents and can reside there only at their mercy.
Oh, that makes sense.
Said the Delhi High Court. Now, this is going to have tremendous ramification because this is giving. It's just such a common problem. It's such a common problem that the children think that you know, these old parents are a burden on them, and you know, and we're allowing them to live here at our mercy because now we're the earning members, blah blah. But they forget, you know. They forget so many things. They forget that they were the small children that these parents brought up.
I agree, and they probably also forget that this is the same treatment that they would perhaps get because their children are watching them. They're watching them how they're treating their parents.
There you go.
So what goes around comes around.
Absolutely. I mean, behavior patterns have this terrible habit of repeating themselves. So if they're going to do this to their parents, well, you know, lo and behold, the same is most probably going to happen to them. But they just don't care. And so many, it's happened so often that old people are just thrown out on the streets, you know, left to fend for themselves because the young children just decide that, you know, they want to enjoy their lives. So it's terrible. It's so terrible. Sickening. But the court has also said that only because the parents have allowed the son to live in their house as long as their relations are cordial, it does not mean that they have to bear his burden throughout their lives.
Now that makes complete sense.
Right. So calling the children living rent-free in your accommodation is burden for the parents. And this is a different way of viewing things.
Right.
Instead of viewing the old parents as a burden on you, the High Court has really reversed the whole process.
And it's really putting the onus and the responsibility and also the command back into the hands of the heads of the family, which is the parents.
Absolutely. And this has come in the wake of dismissing an appeal by a man and his wife challenging the order of a trial court which had passed a decree in favor of his parents, who had filed a suit seeking a direction to their son and daughter-in-law to vacate the floors in their possession. The parents, both senior citizens, had told the lower court that both their sons and daughter-in-law who were living with them had made their life hell. After which they had given complaints to the police and also issued public notices debarring them from their self-acquired property. So the court has ruled in their favor today.
Well, that is wonderful, Charu. But then look at the state of affairs. This is the kind of this is the state in which we're living in. Our old parents are becoming a burden to us, and we have to fight for our, you know, that relationship between children and parents just assumes a different dynamics when you put all the property and money and all that into perspective.
Yes, it's so bizarre. It's actually
Relationships
unthinkable. I mean, I'm finding it difficult to wrap my head around, you know, this concept of thinking of old people as a burden.
Yeah, and just being abandoned in an age when they probably need you the most.
Exactly. It's just terrible.
You know, they took care of us when we were babies, and now they become babies in their old age, and we're supposed to take care of them.
Exactly.
Well,
it's heartening to see that the courts have ruled in favor of what I think is right.
Yes, and now I have an article which kind of takes off on a similar tone. What happens when the children get married, they find their life partner, and then they start living on their own, and they make their own mistakes. So this article is in the Mint. This is by the journalist Uttaresh Venkateshwaran is a reporter. He says, do not let money mistakes rock your marriage. Now,
yes,
this is
a very common problem, you know,
it's
Satya. I mean, especially amongst people of our generation, we see this so often. Young couples, just their marriage is rocked by just
silly
small
mistakes
things.
sometimes.
Yeah, small things
now
that just add up.
You know what? It's small and big. Yeah, newly married couples tend to overlook financial planning and get influenced by others into overspending. So watch out for these pitfalls and nurture your marital harmony, says Uttaresh Venkateshwaran. So this article is mostly about the kind of mistakes one makes after one gets married. You know how even in our corporate lives, or even wherever we talk about, you know what, do not talk about your salary to anybody. Now sadly, this also gets into your married life when people don't even talk about their salaries to their wives or husbands. The spouse needs to know your financial standing. You know, hiding your salary for that matter is not a good idea, because talk about money is important for future planning. For when you have kids, you want to plan their future. Also, you have your own ambitions, you have your own desires, which require some money. So it depends on that relationship you have with your spouse, so that both of you can together manage your finances.
No, I absolutely agree to this. I think things should be open, especially in a marriage. You know, where you have so many things that you need to do together. You need to run a house together. You may have a child that needs, or children that need support. You have parents, you know, that are now dependent on you. And so all of that requires planning. It can't be done without a proper plan.
That's correct.
I mean, it's silly to just try and wing it.
There are emergencies.
And then there are emergencies.
You know, young people, how they get, this also mentions about how young people, when they get married, and they are so influenced and pressurized by the peer pressure, that as soon as they get into a job, they start making some money. They want to spend on a big house, on a big car, and they don't realize that you have a wife, you have a spouse, or you have a husband, whatever be the case. We will have our own desires, we will have our own children, and then what happens? And then, God forbid, I was talking about emergency. What when recession strikes, as it has happened in the past.
Yeah, or for that matter, someone may fall ill, you may need money for that.
And
you
all
know,
your money,
all kinds of things happen.
And all your money is stuck. It's stuck in your EMIs, it's stuck only because you made that small mistake of not keeping one eye out for the future. You know, you've got dependencies, you've got children. It also says, it actually gives you a few tips. One, you need to maintain financial harmony in your marriage. You need to be completely open about your finances. You need to be completely open about your goals and ambitions, which require some investment.
I like that term, financial harmony.
Yes.
Required for marital harmony.
Yeah.
But I like that very much.
Spend responsibly. Nominate your spouse. You know, there are a bunch of things that happen after you get married, and we forget that in all our bank accounts, there is a nomination that happens, right? You have to nominate somebody for your money or your assets. We need to change that to include the spouse as well.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Satya and I could go on and on because there's so much interesting news in the newspapers today. But before we go any further, I think it's time to introduce Christopher Daruwala, who has, of course, got his own take on the newspapers this morning. Here he is with the World Deconstructed.
Hello, welcome to the World Deconstructed. Today we are deconstructing Indian innovation, or what is commonly called jugaad in local parlance. Yes, the Indian people love to innovate. It's in their blood. It's in their genes. It's what makes India and Indians a breed apart. If James Bond's Q were to come to India, we could have taught him a thing or two, or even three actually. Even Q couldn't have thought of this one.
हाँ चलता हूँ सुख बांट बांट हाँ चलता हूँ सुख बांट तेरे जग में लब भर दूँ टूटे दिल को कर दूँ फिट फ्लॉपी लंका.
That was the world's first traveling couch. If that was in a Bond film, those ladies would have arrived at their destination a bit shaken but not stirred. But seriously, Indian jugaad makes the world sit up, take notice and patent it as if it was their own. But jugaad has something to do with a sense of desperation. When you take odds and ends of something to fulfill your needs. Like when you have to serve tea in a hurry and don't have the time. Or a special floating device when you're on a secret mission. Or finding a foolproof way of locking your car. Or even organic ways of keeping the rain at bay. Even reliving childhood fantasies when you're riding your bike. Indeed, jugaad can help you become tech savvy. Dry your pants and cool 2 rooms at the same time. Watch TV and work simultaneously when keeping a watch on the time. Even make time spent with God at the temple more peaceful. Yes, and sometimes jugaad can be completely absurd. In fact, as the governments of many countries grapple with how to keep their streets clean and the resultant cost involved, India was peddling into the future. The Indian psyche, if you can find a way of making life easier, be it with nuts, bolts and pants, then why not do it? And we're not ashamed about it. On the contrary, we feel rather proud. And that's the way it's meant to be. And that's a wrap. Till tomorrow, keep deconstructing.
And with that, we're going to slip into a short break. But when we come back, it's fitness time here at WION Breakfast. See you on the other side. Welcome back. After all the news and sports stories, here is our fitness segment that I was obviously waiting for.
Yes, clearly Charu was waiting for this segment, and in this session, Saurabh Vij will be showcasing her mantra that will help you keep fit in a few quick steps.
Today's segment is about Tai Chi and yoga. It's a fusion of both the disciplines. This workout will help you to limber up and open up your joints, the stiff joints. So let's get started. So everybody just take your feet more wider than your hip and just toes out slightly and just try to sink low as much as you can. And just try to relax your shoulders, take a few deep breaths. And from here, just try to move side to side. Shift your body from side to side. So this is like lunging. And just make sure your knees are in line with the middle of the foot. And you start seeing that the muscles are getting opened up. And when you get comfortable, just move your arms, take a wrap around. And from here, center. And from here, take a just small circle. Breathe in and relax. Go again. Inhale, exhale. A little smaller movement, that's totally fine. And let's do lunging again, side to side. So you go one, side, side to side. Again, wrapping your arms around. So bend your spine, side bend. And release. We'll go again. Now from here, we're going to go into a warrior 2 position. Again, turn your foot out, bring your knee out, and extend your one leg out here, and try to sink down low like a warrior. Your arms out, and hold that asana. Bring your feet closer, inside, and do some shoulder rolls. I hope it's giving you some relief from your stiff joints. Okay, walk your feet in. And from here, straight right arm up, do a side bend. Chain side. To the other side. And release. Let's go to the same position again. Let's repeat the sequence. Side, 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 side. So that was your Tai Chi and Yoga fusion workout. The main purpose of this workout was to relax and improve flexibility, and that's a very important component of any fitness routine.
Charu, I'm not going to give you any time for any fitness gyan. Please, no, please. It's festive season and Twitter is all about Christmas and elf names. Have a look at a few such tweets.
It's festive season indeed. And over to Egypt now, where the Egyptian musician Ahmed Saleh plays electronic beats on his laptop at a downtown Cairo club, while Abdullah Miniawi sings and chants in front of a cheering crowd. The duo are part of a wave of new talent that has surged onto Egypt's underground music scene in recent years. Take a look.
In this club in downtown Cairo, musicians Ahmed Saleh and Abdullah Miniawi play their electronic beats to a swaying crowd. The duo are part of a wave of new talent that has surged onto Egypt's underground music scene in recent years, sometimes infused with traditional Egyptian sounds.
There is movement in the music scene. There's a lot of collaborations, a lot of concerts, and a lot of possibilities for more exposure.
The movement began in the mid-2000s when musicians bypassed record labels to reach their listeners directly online. This also led to the birth of a new type of music called maharaganat. Emerging from working-class neighborhoods, it became Egypt's most listened-to genre. Using cheap or free software, these musicians mix traditional Egyptian music with electronic sounds, creating loud, eclectic beats.
These songs are now the most played at weddings. It's the only thing they play. At the beginning, people were against us. Then we imposed our style, and now everyone listens to Maharaganat, old and young alike.
Rami Abadir released his first official album with Canadian record label DMT Records in May, also using the internet to publish and promote his music.
Even if I can't get proper devices, I can download cheap software online and start making music. I can learn from the internet or by experimenting, or with the help of friends.
Egypt's 2011 uprising, which toppled longtime dictator Hosni Mubarak, boosted the movement, creating a security void which made it easier to open spaces and organize festivals. While many venues promoting new and experimental music have since closed, several still hold regular live sessions. And other artists in the region, including from Lebanon, Syria, and Jordan, have joined up with them to collaborate.
With this, we come to an end for this morning WION Breakfast. Catch us tomorrow again. I am Satya Srigandham.
And I'm Charu Shankar. You can connect with us on Twitter on WION Breakfast. That's it for now, but we'll see you tomorrow. We leave you with the weather updates from around the world.